This week, the High Court heard Christians claim they were banned from fostering because they disapproved of homosexuality. Other high-profile Christians, bishops among them, say it's just another example of Christianity becoming a persecuted faith. Alison Ruoff is a conservative evangelical Christian. She shares those fears. This is her Sunday Stand.
If you're an atheist or a Muslim or homosexual, you can virtually do anything in this country. Society bends over backwards to accommodate one, but not if you're a Christian. There are times when we're not even allowed to wear symbols of our Christian faith, particularly the cross. This is still a Christian country. 71% of people say they believe in the Christian God, but as Christians, we're being more and more marginalised. Political correctness panders to immigrant religions despite their being very much in the minority. We're being hijacked as a nation. Take, for example, the secretive introduction of halal meat for Muslims in our supermarkets. Similarly, most local authorities couldn't care less about Christianity. Take, for example, Birmingham City Council, who banned the mention of Christmas for Winterval. What madness! Also, our children are learning about different religions in schools, often to the detriment of Christianity, which underpins the building blocks and moral values of our nation. Such nonsense penalises those who hold to biblical, moral and ethical standards. So, for example, those who don't want their guest houses, their homes, being used by practising homosexuals. Not only is Christianity under attack from other religions, mainly Islam, but also from an aggressive atheism, in the face of which our own Christian church remains silent and impotent.
Well, Jonathan Bartley's a Christian too, so in a moment we'll ask if he feels persecuted. But what do you think? Are Christians being scorned for what they believe in? If you have a webcam, go to our website now and click on the video call link to join the discussion. You can make your point by phone, by text, email or online, and all the details are on the screen. Alison Ruoff joins us now in the studio. But Jonathan, first, do you feel like a persecuted Christian?
No, I feel like I can come on national TV and talk about my faith. I long for the day when Christians are known by their love, not by their opt-outs, not by their withholding goods and services from lesbian and gay people, not by their shrill claims of persecution. You look at the reality in this country. Let's just look at the public funding for faith schools. You know, 1/3 of primaries are faith schools, 1/4 are church schools, yet they routinely discriminate against atheists, agnostics, humanists in admissions, and that's done with taxpayers' money. Imagine if that situation was reversed, if the 2/3 or 3/4 of so-called secular schools discriminated against Christians. That would be rightly outrageous, and that would be serious discrimination, but we routinely tolerate it when it's Christians getting the money and Christians doing it to others.
Alison, do you really see evidence of persecution?
Persecution is the strongest word. There's most definite marginalisation, and that's the one and the other. But yes, there's evidence everywhere.
On a wide scale, when more than 70% of the country say that they are Christian?
It is a wide scale, and it's becoming. I was looking back on various things, figures of things that have happened to people, and 2009, I think, was particularly bad. People being marginalised for being a street preacher, and the police were immediately after them, and then they weren't breaking the law. Somebody was handing out leaflets inviting people to come to an Easter service and was, taken by the police. Well, he wasn't breaking the law. And in education, in 2008 there were two 12-year-old boys, for example, who were learning about Islam, had to dress as Muslims, well, okay, but then they had to get down and pray on a prayer mat. And these two boys, who came from Christian families, said, no, we're not going to do that. And they were punished by the school. It is everywhere, and the thing that is happening.
Hang on, is it everywhere?
Yes.
Or are these isolated incidents?
It is becoming more and more prevalent. One of the things that's happening to us as a nation at the moment is the introduction of halal meat, and most people have no idea about this. This is meat that's prepared for Muslims, and even from taking aside the the problem with the way the animals are killed. The Tesco's, Sainsbury's, Waitrose, Co-op, I think there's another. Various food chains like KFC, McDonald's have now stopped it, but they have all gone over to halal meat.
I'm going to ask Angela, I'm going to ask you to come in just a moment, but you've made a couple of points about Islam. Let's just speak to Nazreen Raymond, who is from British Muslims for Secular Democracy. Nazreen, are more rights given to considering the Muslim faith, for instance, the introduction of halal meat, or punishing Christian children who don't want to even pretend to pray like Muslims in class?
Well, I think the underlying tension in this debate and the question that, the anti-Christian, the increase of anti-Christian feelings in Britain is very interesting, because Angela actually, as an example, gives, one incident where two boys were, according to her, forced to go down on the prayer mat and say their prayers. And about halal meat, when we already have kosher food in supermarkets, etc., and the rituals for killing, etc., are very similar. I think that, is Britain, are we, the question is, are we equal citizens? Are we a multi-religious, multi-faith, and I include in this people of no faith? Are we, in fact, a secular, a culturally diverse society, or are we not?
Well, Angela, you are Jewish.
I am, and this point really makes me explode, I'm sorry, because it's great to be part of a multicultural society, but the fact is that Britain is a Christian country. Now, as a Jewish person, my day of the Sabbath is Saturday. I don't expect the shops to close or the country to come to a standstill, because I elect to live in a Christian country. I'm part of the team, I wear the shirt. It's a simple cliche. And in fact, I embrace all the lovely things that make this country so visibly Christian. I'm proud to be British. And it's wonderful, like I say, to have a multicultural society, but we don't have to have this sort of policy of appeasement where we're withering and bending under the weight of political correctness. And when we talk about sort of things like kosher meat, for example, in supermarkets, yes, I buy kosher meat, but I don't expect KFC to have it on their menu. If I want to have kosher meat, I'll go to a butcher that sells kosher meat. I don't expect it to be a one-size-fits-all policy, because I accept this is not a Jewish state,
Jonathan,
it's a Christian country.
Do we live in a Christian country or a multicultural, multi-faith country?
I think we're moving into what we might term post-Christendom. I don't think the country has ever been Christian, but it's certainly been Christendom, because a lot of what happened under this huge religious influence wasn't particularly Christian. For example, keeping atheists out of Parliament because they're atheists till 150 years ago. Crusades, wars, inquisitions, the huge oppression against Jews for decades in the name of Jesus, in the name of Christ. That wasn't Christian, but it was Christendom. And I think we're moving to a place where that privilege for Christianity, that power of Christianity is moving. Religion is relocating, and so we are in a plural context where we've got to really work out our new relationships between each other.
Alison, because we talked about the fact that 70% say they're Christians, but only 6% of the population go to church. Is this a problem for the Christian church? Is it a waning of power that you're concerned about?
Well, I hope it's not a waning of power. No, I'm not concerned about a waning of power at all. I'm just concerned that we, as a nation, are going to throw away our Christian building blocks and everything that has developed this nation in the way that it's been influenced by Christianity, which is massive. You look at schools and hospitals and all the sort of public things that are looking after and concern for people. Those are something that has come from Christianity, and we must not throw those away. I have to say that the last government over the last 13 years has done massive damage to this nation in throwing away these Christian building blocks. And multiculturalism, multi-faith will not hold together. It just doesn't.
How have schools and hospitals been thrown away?
They haven't been thrown away, but we owe that to a Christian responsibility in the past, where people have looked at bad situations and thought, how can we make this better? We will start a clinic which becomes a hospital or something like that. They have Christian foundations.
Well, fantastic, yes, and I agree, and let's encourage those things, but I don't see how it relates, for example, to Christians running a bed and breakfast and then saying, but if you're gay, you can't come to our bed and breakfast. How is that related to schools and hospitals?
That's not related to schools and hospitals. You know that's perfect nonsense.
No, you're talking about the Christian roots of our nation. How is that part of the Christian roots of our nation being discriminatory?
It's not being
people?
Discriminatory. Why should one, and you're talking about a specific, I think there were 2 specific cases where people who were Christians ran a bed and breakfast which was their own home and said, we as Christians do not want to have practicing homosexuals having a double room in our home, in our house. And why should they?
Right.
Yeah, I'm just absolutely flabbergasted. I thought Christianity was actually about love and forgiveness and welcome and hospitality.
But it's also about Bible truth. And that's what matters.
But as you know, Jesus said quite clearly, you can't divorce truth from love. You will know the truth by the loving actions of
This is why I
Christians.
get very uncomfortable about religious debate, because the whole point of having a so-called multicultural society is that we accept and embrace other cultures. Let's all be free to do it the way we want to do, as long as it doesn't compromise the greater good, as long as it's not illegal, it's not inflammatory, it's not inciting violence. But we're, on the one hand, we're saying, yes, we're all so multicultural, we have this lovely ethnic mix. But on the other hand, you do the way I want to do it, and that's not fair. I don't expect to have the way I live, my ethical religious life, to impinge upon the way other people want to live theirs.
But so where do you stand then on the Christians who don't want to promote or sometimes tolerate homosexuality and therefore don't want to include gay people in what they're doing, running a B&B or fostering or whatever?
If it's, I think everything has to be judged in a kind of anecdotal way. That was their home, it was their bed and breakfast. If that's what they don't want to do, it's only akin to parents saying, you've got a boyfriend, but I don't want him to stay over overnight. That doesn't mean that it's all wrong to live over the brush with your boyfriend if you're 17 or 18.
Well, let's speak to someone who is directly affected by this. Gary McFarlane was a counsellor, relationship counsellor, and was fired from Relate because you were asked to be comfortable offering to sex therapy to same-sex couples, which you weren't, Gary.
That's right. That's